Coming up on today's show.
So you can have it on your tablets, smartphones, as well as applications for Windows and Mac on the desktop.
Now, some people might worry about security. I would imagine that there's some security pieces in place that would help your data be protected so other people can't hack into it.
The basics of Evernote are notebooks, of course. And if you kind of correlate a notebook with a file folder, it works really well.
Getting organized with Evernote, today on Keeping You Organized. Well, hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to talk about a subject we've touched on briefly in our other episodes of this podcast with many professional organizers who love to talk about Evernote. It's a productivity organizing app. When you talk to some people, they think you can do just about anything. It doesn't do your laundry yet, but we'll figure out a little bit more about Evernote with a new podcast guest, Todd Allen from structuredspaces.net, or is it structuredspace.net?
Yeah, structuredspace.net, John.
Great. Well, welcome to Keeping You Organized today. I know that your company is a little bit different than the typical professional organizing company. Why don't you just give us a summary of kind of what you guys do?
Well, I started out doing pretty much general organizing when I started in business about 4 years ago. But my passion has always been in the digital realm, and having used Evernote since 2010, going through every update that has occurred, it just suddenly dawned on me that helping people organize information with Evernote is a great way to specialize in the organizing field. So I've been specializing in information organizing for probably about 1.5 years now.
Right. Well, I assume that probably in our audience there are probably Evernote power users. This episode may not necessarily apply to them, because I think the majority of the people maybe have dabbled in it or just kind of wondering how Evernote can work for them. So let's start off, first of all, just kind of describe Evernote. Is it free? Do you have to pay for it? And where you actually get it?
Well, you can go to evernote.com, and there's a wealth of resources that describe both versions of Evernote that people will use individually. The first one is the basic version, which is free and has some limitations on how many notes or how much data you can upload to Evernote. The premium version is I believe, $64.99 a year, and it gives you a wealth of features that are not available in basic. For example, you can annotate PDF files. You can do more sharing than you can with the basic version. So yeah, like you said, back to evernote.com for description of versions and how to get started.
So this would be like a cloud. Most of the stuff stays on the cloud, and then you, through your various devices, maybe your phone, your desktop, you can access the same information from different places. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Evernote has applications for iOS, Android, and even Windows phones. So you can have it on your tablets, smartphones, as well as applications for Windows and Mac on the desktop. And it is in the cloud. Actually, Evernote switched all of their data over to the Google Cloud about 1 year ago. And interestingly enough, the switch went absolutely perfect and no data was lost. So be assured that all your data is safe in the Google Cloud.
Right. Now, some people might worry about security. I would imagine that there's some security pieces in place that would help your data be protected so other people can't hack into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. 128-bit encryption is standard on all notes that are in Evernote, and so your data is definitely secure.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you use Evernote, and I think maybe if we can kind of do a comparison, because you say you work with people in both the digital and the let's say the paper realm. And I think people that are new to Evernote probably want to know, well, how can I do what I may be doing on paper digitally now? So let's get over some of that terminology, because I think sometimes someone will call a file folder something else in another program. So let's kind of make some of those connections first.
Well, Evernote is, if you think of the basics of Evernote are notebooks, of course. And if you kind of correlate a notebook with a file folder, works really well. Notes, of course, would be the content within that file folder. And when you're speaking of Evernote and content, you can basically put any kind of digital information into Evernote. You can do an audio recording. You can take a picture with your smartphone and create a new note. You can add text to that note. You can add web links to the note. And the next component of Evernote is tags, which allow you to categorize your notes in any kind of fashion that you would like. And finally, the real backbone of Evernote is the ability to search any kind of information that you've put into Evernote. You can create searches on tags or notebooks, any kind of text string that you want to find in Evernote. You can create a search, and it actually gives you the ability to save that search so you can come back to it frequently if you need to.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a in the old traditional filing system, you'd have to do alphabetical or have some kind of system, but this allows you to search kind of universally and find, and can it find things that are like in an audio file or words in a PDF? Does it go down to that level of detail, or is that where the tags come in?
Well, what's interesting is Evernote, and this is one of the most amazing features, you can actually create a text or a handwritten note, and then Evernote will actually search for text within that handwritten note. And I've worked with clients that have really not that great a penmanship, and we're able to pretty much locate anything we're looking for within a handwritten note in Evernote. You can also search in PDF files as well. So again, it gives you the ability to search for just about anything, anywhere within the Evernote system.
Now let's clarify on handwritten notes. So are you saying writing on a piece of paper then scanning it, or like on a smartphone or something, using your finger to kind of write out, or both, or how does that
Both,
get into it? Yeah. So is scanning still kind of an element of that?
Yeah, you can actually take a picture of a handwritten note on paper, and then you can search text within that handwritten note.
Oh, great. Wow. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some use cases maybe with some of your clients, or typical situations where Evernote is a really killer kind of app. So we're with Todd Allen talking about how to get organized with Evernote, and we'll be right back. Get organized in color at myorganized.life.
Live, we laugh, we love, and color. Live, we laugh, we love, and color. Live, we laugh, we love, and color.
myorganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about how to get organized with Evernote, the app that resides in the cloud, but you can use on your computer, your smartphone. And we have Todd Allen with us today, talking about how you use Evernote. And before the break, Todd, we talked a little bit about kind of the vernacular, or how the basics of Evernote are. But let's try to put that into some stories or use cases, maybe with clients. Give us an example of how you went into a client who had a certain challenge with organizing something, and Evernote was the answer.
Well, one client that I worked with was somebody that was very into cooking and was wanting to organize recipes. So again, with being able to take screenshots or pictures of documents, we were able to get all of her content into Evernote. And then the great thing about Evernote is once we got it there into one notebook that we called recipes, when we got it there, we looked at each individual note, and then we started adding tags in. For example, if we had a chicken recipe, then we would tag it with chicken. And if it was to be prepared in the barbecue, of course, we would tag it with barbecue. We may tag something with Southwest, for example, and we could even tag it with outdoors. So essentially what happens is when she wanted to come back and find a recipe for a party that she's having, then if it was going to be outdoor, she would click on the tag outdoor in the search, and then she would have all recipes that would be applicable to eating outdoor. Again, if it was a barbecue that she was looking for, then she would click on the barbecue tag. All the recipes would come up that were tagged with barbecue.
Okay.
And so on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, so really one recipe could have multiple tags on it. So it's not only a chicken recipe, but it's an outdoor recipe. But if you were looking for a chicken recipe, it would come up. If you were looking for a fish recipe, it wouldn't. But if you were looking for an outdoor recipe, it would come up. So I think those tags seem very powerful.
Yes, exactly. And then you could have all recipes that are for barbecue and eating outdoor, and you may have beef, you may have chicken, fish. It was really a cool application. And so again, all that content comes in and it's in one notebook, but then with tags and saved searches, you're able to pretty much slice and dice it any way you like.
Right. Okay, well, let's say that same person has another area of their life they want to get organized. I know my wife would love that recipe one right away, but how about maybe finances? How could you use Evernote to help you organize your finances?
Well, one of the great ways you can use Evernote is scanning receipts. And then you can actually tag those receipts with whatever expense it might be related to, whether it was a home improvement, whether it was an auto expense, if you're using your car for work and deducting that. The other way that Evernote is great is if you're scanning a bill that comes in, perhaps you're getting paper statements from some vendor. You can scan that document and you could tag it with unpaid. And then when it was time to pay your bills, you could click on the unpaid tag and it would bring all of the bills up that are currently pending. The other thing that you can do is bringing PDF files in from your financial institution, for example, a bank statement. You can actually store that in Evernote, and then you can tag that with reconciled or to reconcile. You could tag it with whatever year it is, and you could tag it with whatever bank or financial institution it came from.
Right. Well, that now you got my mind thinking. Again, I'm not an Evernote user, but how about like for family photos? Can you basically do people use Evernote for just photo albums? I mean, like, okay, this was our San Diego trip in 2014, and that kind of thing.
That's actually a great point, John. And one of the great things about Evernote is creating a note that would be, for example, a trip that your family made to, let's say, San Diego, for example. Yep. You could actually include where you went in terms of a map coordinates into an Evernote. You could scan all of your pictures that you took for the trip, and you could share that note with your family, and everybody could add content as they needed to. So then but at the end of the day, then you would have this great family photo album, or actually trip log, if you will, that would reside in Evernote, and it can be shared with your entire family, or actually anybody that you chose to share the note with.
Yeah. Well, that seems very interesting. Now, I would imagine, and again, I'm not being a user, are there like third-party plugins, or are there templates that people create? Because obviously if there's this huge user base of Evernote, there are probably some of these specialty things that you can get, or is it kind of a closed system?
Well, it's not entirely a closed system in that Evernote has a great ability to share it's actually called an API, which allows other applications to add content to Evernote as needed. For example, you can use a third-party application to create a new note whenever you generate a new Excel spreadsheet, for example.
Okay.
But when you mention templates, that's another interesting feature of Evernote, and has the ability to create notes that you're going to use frequently. For example, if myself, I use it for my CRM, that's a client relationship management system, and I have a template for a client contact, for example. So then I create that note once, and then I can use it over and over again as I need to.
Okay. Now let's go back to the Excel example. Say you have an Excel spread, say maybe you have a budget on there. And I'm sure you can just, you pull it up, you can make changes, you can save it. Are there any other things that I'm missing with, like, because you're working in Excel because you're pulling the file from Evernote and it's just saving back and forth, or am I missing a step here?
Well, you can actually save an Excel file within an Evernote. The one caveat, though, is that that file actually resides within that note. It's not the original.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But one of the great features of Evernote is in the partnership with Google, you can actually connect your Google Drive account to Evernote. And then if you're using the Google apps like Google Sheets or Google Docs, those files can actually live within an Evernote, and any changes you make there will actually be reflected in your Google Drive. So it's a great place if you're using Google Docs and Google Sheets to create notes that actually use that content.
Okay, so yeah, now you got me kind of thinking out loud here. So then the actual file sits on Google Drive, but it can be manipulated as part of a note in Evernote. It's not
Exactly.
It's not saved on Evernote as an Excel file, correct?
No, it's actually a live connection between your Google Drive and the note in which that particular spreadsheet or document resides.
Okay. So let's put one more situation out. Say you're a small business owner, one person real estate agent, or how can someone like that take Evernote and just make their work situation a little more productive?
Well, I actually worked with a client. It was a really interesting case that it was a window covering company, and they had several employees from admin all the way down to installers. They created a template, or actually we created a template where the project would be spelled out in terms of the address, what windows were being covered, a picture of the home where the location was. And then we would tag that note with different phases. For example, if it was sold, then the owner of the company would actually tag it as sold, and then the admin would take it over then and start working on the billing.
Oh, wow. So is there ways for then like Evernote accounts to kind of share or bounce notes back and forth to each other then?
Well, they actually there's a version of Evernote called Evernote Business. Okay. And that's the application that we use there. And it actually gives you the ability to have an admin console that allows you to monitor and add users, as well as being able to share notes automatically when somebody logs on, depending on their level of security.
Wow.
But we were back to that case. They were able to, when the product for the window coverings was ordered, then it would go into the installer's realm, and he would check the tags for ready to install, and all the FedEx documentation was there. It was a really cool application.
Wow. Well, we're running out of time here, and I feel like we're just getting started, but I think what we wanted to accomplish was get people curious about Evernote, getting maybe set up on it, maybe going out, trying it out a little bit. I know there's a lot more applications, and we'll have to save that for a future episode. But before we go, why don't you tell people how you can help them maybe work with Evernote and put out your contact information, your website.
Well, that's great. Thanks, John. You can actually reach me at structuredspace.net. And I love to work with clients. I do virtual consulting on Evernote. And we can spend a little bit of time getting to know each other for an assessment. And then we would come up with a plan for how to create your Evernote system, get you up and going with organizing information.
Awesome. Well, that's great, Todd. I'm really glad we had time to talk about this today, and I'm sure we will have you back for maybe our second level of Evernote training, because again, it's one of those apps we're hearing a lot about. People are using it, and you even think about since 2010, it's only 8 years, and that's still the infancy probably even for Evernote. So we'll have you back next time. All right?
Great.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Now you at least know what Evernote is and are maybe curious about it. You could check the show notes on how to get a hold of that and how to get a hold of Todd, maybe if you want help doing it. And then after you're all organized with that, come back for our next episode of Keeping You Organized.